HR/hiring managers, larger firms, of Reddit. What are the dirty secrets of online job applications? Okay, I was a store manager for a larger now defunct game store in the late 2000s. All of our applications were processed online, complete with your attached resume, vital stats, and the quiz. The quiz is the same one that anyone ever applying for a retail job has seen. 50 questions asking your opinion on several things, mostly if you love to steal, and if you hate meeting new people, and you can mark strongly disagree to strongly agree. The untold secret is that we don't want your answers, we want to see if you know the right answers, and we scored you accordingly. 80% minus 100% green, and if you had a resume, you got a call back. 60% minus 79% yellow, and I can interview you if you have a good resume. Anything less is in the red, and we don't even consider you. It was insane how much weight was put on the superficial quiz instead of the resume or person attached. I had to fight tooth and nail for some yellows that were incredibly well qualified and made some great employees, and had some greens which were rushed through immediately that ended up being lazy or thieves. TL. Doctor, we see all of them, but if it's done online, many are tossed aside immediately. Answer how you think Jack Donaghy would. Include a coherent resume, and you should be able to get an interview if nothing else. This thread is exactly representative of the absolute clusterfuck I already believed getting a job to be. Make sure it's a PDF. It can't be a PDF. One-page resume. Many-page resume. No one reads cover letters. Cover letters should be short. Just fuck. I'm no hiring manager, but this year I was involved in the hiring process for a new team member, and as a result got to see a batch of other people's resumes for the first time. These were my takeaways for the next time I'm preparing a resume, which won't be for a long time, I hope and pray. Use PDF when possible. Any other format always gets screwed up in translation somehow. Always. I don't know why. Stick to one page, unless you are applying for upper management. Reduce to only the most useful and recent stuff to make it fit. Make it skimmable. Put your skills, Python, CPR certification, classy license, whatever the concrete stuff is, at the top of the page, one per line, in multiple neat columns if needed. Let the reader know as quickly as possible that you're qualified. Don't provide a link to your personal website, unless it's relevant and professional. It's probably no big deal if your employer Googles your name and finds potentially unflattering art/blog/projects. It's a bigger deal if you provide that as your best foot forward. That's all I know. Hope it helps. I was an assistant store manager for a large company for several years, and our applications have went to 100% online, and many companies are going that way. E-apps are much easier to sort and organize than a stack of papers. If an app ends up in the digital trash can, it's because the applicant wasn't as qualified as they needed to be for the position. If you submit an application online, call and speak to the HR manager, tell them your name and that you submitted, and ask a few questions about the position. This will put your name in their mind and will most likely get your app reviewed. Once you make it to that point, it will depend your qualifications. Good luck. I'll give you a tip that has nothing to do with the application, but with online tests many firms give. I've noticed multiple recruitment firms in it tend to use online tests, so here is what you do. It requires some tech savviness. Go to the page of the test, register/make a test account, fire up a debugger like rlib, attach to browser/thread, start test, use solidbg to pause the thread. For some reason online tests timer is usually only in the browser threads and not server-side validation. Spend as much time you want on question, resume thread, go next question, rinse and repeat. Check after test that nothing failed. Do over with a real account. Enjoy acing tests you know very little about. Not a hiring manager, but I've phone screened and interviewed over 100 people who were vying for positions in our department. A couple of tips. If you know anyone at the company you're applying to, have them submit your resume for you. I would say a good 30-40% of the people we end up hiring already know someone within the company. One caveat though, if the person you know works directly on the team you're applying to, this could also work against you if your relationship is too personal. If you don't know anyone, make sure your resume is top notch. While the recruiters or ours may read your resume closely, the hiring team is typically super busy and doesn't have a lot of time to read through filler text. Keep your resume sharp, to the point, and use bullet points or short sentences for your job descriptions. I actually prefer to see all relevant job experience on your resume, even if this means reading several pages, but the key is relevant job experience. I was actually hired twice by submitting my resume blindly to the companies I ended up working for. The key for me was to submit a kick-ass cover letter that was tailored to each position I applied to, and b. apply often. I submitted a minimum of 3 to 5 resumes every day, maximumed out around 100 before I was hired, and averaged a ratio of 100:5:2 submissions, interviews, offers. The ratio was about the same for both pre-recession job hunt and mid-recession unemployment. Just like in dating, be confident, don't act desperate. Lots of comments already, but here we go anyways. I've personally worked at both extremely large, Fortune 100 companies all the way down to small local business, as well as retail and food service. Right now I'm working at a VC-funded startup listed on Forbes 500. I think there is a lot of good information already on here regarding resume preparation, style, and layout. I want to talk more about content. In particular job and duties descriptions, education and extracurricular information, and last, references. These are the things that will make or break you once you get to the hiring manager. First off, skip the objective. You don't need it. Job duties and descriptions. For each professional experience listed, the most effective way I've seen it laid out is with a 1 to 2 sentence description of the job itself and your general role and responsibilities. Underneath you then can bullet how you accomplished your duties. Try to use tangible and quantifiable activities, like project lead for XXXX initiative doing blank. Project resulted in XXX% increase in important stat. By having the descriptive first sentence and then 3 or 4 bullets beneath you, give the reader background and context. This allows them to quickly digest your success in the role described by your bullets below. If written well, these will often prompt questions during the interview, which you can be better prepared to respond to. You get to help them understand your qualifications and direct the interview conversation in your favor. Education. Don't put the year you graduate. Although it is illegal to discriminate based on an applicant's age, managers often do. Try to make your age as ambiguous as possible. This will help you make the first in-person interview. Obviously, if you have 30 years of listed experience, you will get put in a certain age bracket, but you never know. The last person in the position you are looking to fill may have been old and sloppy, or might have been young and stupid, both of which may affect the hiring manager's stance on a future candidate's age range. List your school and your major or majors. Make sure to separate bachelor's, master's, and doctorates in order of most recent on top. Education should be towards the bottom of the page. For extracurricular, list anything philanthropic, business, societies, or leader positions, but only if you actually do something. I'll list 2 lines of extracurricular, but I can talk it up as an asset in an interview. If you are just putting it there to look nice, don't do it. Cover letter is optional unless requested. If you are applying directly via email or through a reference, you should treat the email content as a cover letter. References are extremely important. But I'm tired. PM me if you want some help on this. If I get enough requests, I can post more. I used to work in recruitment for a large 1,000 employees firm, and here's what I learned. Lots of times a company will advertise for a job that doesn't actually exist. If they want to hire and they have a candidate in mind, they are still legally obligated to open the hiring process up to competition to avoid accusations of discrimination, but they will still hire the original person. They might even interview multiple candidates, knowing that they won't hire any of them. Also, a job can disappear during the recruitment process due to funding constraints, etc., and nobody will get hired. I always hated getting PDF CVs, because that meant you couldn't copy/paste them into a database without the formatting going wonky. I also hated when people called to check the status of their application, or try to come in person to drop off their CV. Read, kiss ass. The recruiter doesn't have time to talk to you, and you will come off as desperate. Your CV should speak for itself, and if you are the best candidate, the recruiter will be able to tell without your pestering. A firm that has their shit together has a receptionist who won't even connect you or let you see the person if you call or come in. On top of being annoying, this also helps avoid discrimination. Don't waste too much time on a cover letter unless it reveals some amazing fact that slips through the cracks of your CV. Hint, it won't. It's not worth reading for the recruiter. If you must write one or it's required, make it short. 5 or 6 sentences will get your point across. I work in hours at a department store. During the holidays, we will literally hire anyone. You could probably be a serial killer and get a job at our store. That's how desperate we get for people to work. As for the applications, we do all of our apps online. Everyone gets the same deal. Typically we throw away your resume and just look at your application. If you show up for the interview, great. If not, you can reschedule, but most of the time we get pretty pissed. Don't treat us like shit either. Some people come into interviews thinking they are better than us, which could be true, but don't be an asshole about it. I've had people come in without an ounce of politeness and expect a job to be handed to them just because they have tons of experience in retail. We don't give a shit. We look at your app, but honestly we always base it on the face-to-face interview. That's the most important part to us. I look at the applications for a reference and see what kind of questions to ask, but beyond that, first impressions are your best friend in retail. After reading everything in this thread, all I can say is fuck you. I don't usually say that, and it feels dirty when I do, but I have an interview this morning. After filling out 182 applications, I filled every one of them out with accurate and truthful information only to find out now I was wasting my time on most of them. My interview is at a local manufacturing company to operate a machine. A mind-numbing stupid machine, where you put a sheet of metal in, and a piece of molded something comes out. My god, I've been to 4 different universities, 3 colleges, ran 3 different departments, managed offices and people for 30 years, and now I'm hoping to get a job where I can stand next to a fucking machine and put pieces of sheet metal into it just so I can keep paying my house payment. I'm unemployed not because I was fired or quit, but because the owner of the company for which I served loyally went off his nut and the CFO ran the financials like it was his own personal bank until the real bank and government found out. Yay, I'm pissed. But if you all buy my books I can one day be a famous author and won't have to work in a factory until I drive my truck into the river on some cold February morning after a night of drunken debauchery. Hours for a large company. We open a requisition for 20 entry-level positions and receive well over 750 applicants. The online system helps to weed out those not qualified. No high school diploma/JED? Bye bye. Then we can search by keyword to narrow down. Maybe we need bilingual or want someone who puts that they are outgoing in their resume. Dependent on what the hiring manager wants. Online applications are the only way to apply to many places now. It's easier to sort, helps with FCC and DOC filing requirements, and weeds out those who don't have basic computer skills. I work at a software company. We have one person who manages engineering hires and another, me, who manages non-engineering, product, sales, data science. We are not big enough to have too much dedicated hours, so I do this in addition to the rest of my work. Over the last 6 months, I have reviewed approximately 500 applicants in one way or another. For reference, all the jobs I recruit for pay $100K. Our process, I get resumes and applications from our website form, direct emails, recruiters employed by us, recruiters trying to market their candidates, and third-party job hosting websites, and LinkedIn. All of these, regardless of source, get sent as an email to my inbox, where I tag them by which position. Once every 1 to 2 weeks, I go through them all. I read every single resume, and I respond to everyone. There are really 3 responses. 1, I want to interview you. 2, sorry, not a good fit. And 3, not a good fit right now, but maybe later. People in 1 and 3 get a personalized email to set up a time. People in 2 get a form email. Sorry, I know it's painful, but there's just no time. What I look for: specific requirements. Lots of RX require skills. I need to see that you have them or have worked in a place that would suggest this. About 50% of applicants aren't even close. Work experience, in addition to specific skills. I love to see good companies. I know that Google has a good hiring process and good training, so it's a good sign. College. I don't interview anyone without a college degree from a top 50 school, and I interview few outside of top 25. Being from a top school isn't a shoo-in at all. I skip over many Yale/Harvard applicants. Test scores. Lots of people send me SAT scores. I ignore these. GPA 3. 5 plus I think is good. 3.323. 5 I think is okay, and anything lower is a negative unless otherwise explained. Interest. I only want passionate employees. Tell me why you want to work here. My advice: don't do anything fancy. I'm reading tons of these at a time. I know what I'm looking for. If you make it hard to find, it is anger inducing. Do include a cover letter with real reasons that you're interested, and be genuine and energetic. I prefer this to be in the text of the email, and it need not be more than a few paragraphs. PDF is best. 1 to 2 pages is fine for a resume, but be sure to limit how much you write about each thing. If you can't summarize to me what you did in 3 to 4 bullet points, it shows me that you're a task monkey who can't think big picture. Don't shrink your margins to 0.5 centimeters just to fit everything on one page. I'm amazed how many people do this. Do you think you're fooling me? I know how word processors work. Have a LinkedIn profile. I once worked for a store manager who would literally erase applications of people whose names she couldn't pronounce. She also made off-color racist comments to some of the employees, including me.